My name is Chinn, but let me get this slide up here. Slide going on? All right, welcome everyone. My name is Chinn, and we're going to be talking about building Samsung users through mobile advertising today. While I'm new to Samsung, I'm not new to advertising. I've spent 20 years in the advertising world. The first 10 years of my career was selling media, and the last 10 years have been working in the technology, the infrastructure that works behind it. But I've been born and raised and lived in the Bay Area, and I've seen kind of the birthplace of advertising or digital advertising come through here. 20 years ago, I saw when you did a search result for Yahoo, you got a display advertisements. And then I remember a story when I was walking down University Avenue in Palo Alto, and a friend of mine said, like, hey, check out this company. They're going to be big one day. And from the second story building shining down to the bottom was an image of a company called Google. And so I thought, well, what does that mean? Like, there's a search engine. They're going to be big. So I remember meeting Omid Kordestani, if you know who this gentleman was. He was the first sales guy at Google. And he said, come on in. I want to talk to you, Craig. And I talked to him about this vision of advertising. And he said, well, you know what, Craig, I'm not really interested in advertising right now. I'm interested in licensing Google technology. So I don't think we're going to do advertising at all because we're not sure about the user experience. But I think you all know where kind of that ended up. So it's an interesting story to see that and with Facebook. And so there's so much rich things that are going on with advertising that unknown players are entering the marketplace now, like Samsung, that aren't obvious choices for advertising. And so this is not a decision that Samsung took lightly. Samsung mobile ads is new, and we had to think about a lot of different things of being traditionally a hardware company to transitioning into ads. And so I wanted to share with you our mission statement from Samsung mobile ads, which is to be the heart of our users' lifestyle, connecting to them the devices, content, and the people they love. And the guiding principles behind this have been always, we want to make sure that we never sacrifice user experience, and we're going to protect our users' data at all costs. We're in a unique position at Samsung because we are, in many places, ubiquitous within our consumers' lifestyle, whether it be smart things, the Internet of Things, or TVs and phones. But that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I really want to talk about specifically how we actually do this right within mobile. And so today I'm going to take you through some of the industry statistics. Many you will know already, and others you may not know. We'll talk a lot about the gaming industry necessarily, about their needs and challenges, and we'll talk about our offering at Samsung. And we'll talk a little bit more about what makes us special and why Samsung mobile ads. And then finally, we'll give you an opportunity of how you can work with us. And just so I can understand the room right now, can I get a show of hands? How many of you are marketers in this room? Okay. Specifically, user acquisition? Okay. And how about the gaming vertical itself? Or even gaming vertical? Okay. Good to know. Thank you. All right. So let me take you through some industry statistics. One of the things that we talk about games, I want to talk about games on purpose here because games are something ubiquitous within the Galaxy, but this is not limited to this discussion to just games. But one of the things that's important about games for Galaxy is that we know within the Galaxy device that the lifetime value of games is actually greater amongst Android users. So hardcore gamers typically use games, and one of the things that we focused on was we want to use the gaming vertical as a test bed to show how effective mobile ads can be. And mobile games now account for 50% market share. That happened in 2018, and that market continues to grow. And by 2021, it's expected to be 59%. But one of the things that we see is app install spend growth is slowing. So that doesn't mean that people aren't spending more money on games, but it's harder to find specific users. So we know about the Facebook and Google duopoly, but then there's a bunch of other players out there that seem to have the same exact audience. So there is a desire for marketers out there to find users that may not just be within Google and Facebook. Another trend that I want to point out is advertising. So traditionally, through games, you define through in-app purchases, but there's also a segment that's actually deriving revenue from advertising, display advertising. This is a stat on mid-core and strategy games. It's at 30%, which I think is about normal because obviously mid-core and strategy games still depend on in-app purchase for a lot of their revenue. But when you think about casual games, it's even a higher percentage. So you can see here from AppsFlyer last year, the growth within just that year from 31% to 56% at the end of November. I've had the opportunity to kind of talk to a lot of user acquisition managers this last year, the gaming vertical and other verticals as well, like e-commerce. And the needs that consistently came up were always the same. And what we heard from them was, Craig, I need to find that right audience. Okay, that's pretty obvious, but I need to find that at scale. And that's not so obvious. But the last part is I need to make sure that they're engaging with my app in a way that you guys are going to present the advertising. So these were the 3 goals that we consistently heard over this last year. So why Samsung? What makes Samsung unique to actually fulfill on those promises or those needs that user acquisition managers are talking about every day? Well, the first thing is that we're in a unique position to be the #1 phone provider in the world. Consistently for market share, and this is still the case now, we have 270 million active devices in the globe and 100 million here in the US. We also have unique data. So everyone will say that we have unique data, but what is unique about us as an OEM? Well, we actually have app usage behavior. So we know what's happening on our devices. And this is something that we take with great responsibility. And the third thing is we're a premium brand. We are lucky enough to be ranked one of the best global brands in the world, and Interbrands recognized us as the 6th most influential global brand last year. So we're very proud of what our brand is, what it means to our users, and what our users have an affection towards us as a brand. So they trust us. But beyond just the hardware, they love their Galaxy services. And we have multiple services that I didn't showcase here, but there's a couple here, and I'm just going to share that within the gaming piece. The left-hand side is the Galaxy Store. So on the Galaxy Store, this is an area that's different from the Play Store. So many of you may not know a lot what goes on with the Galaxy Store, but as an example, certain things like esports can only be found on the Galaxy Store. And many of you may know that Fortnite is only available on the Galaxy Store. It's not available in the Play Store. Another area that our users love is what's called Game Launcher. And so what started off was a simple area or portfolio for our users to have all their games in one place, actually developed into a portal. And so a user can come in here, and they come in here multiple times a day to quickly access their games, but also to see what kind of time they've spent, what kind of other stats they have on their games on a daily basis. And why that's important is because it allows that user to discover new games. New games like as we see here with little app icons and with video ads, so actually they can interact with our game advertisers' games directly. But that's a small part of our services. Our users don't interact with Samsung service every single day. They do it frequently, and they love them. But when we think about all the data that we have on our phones and what kind of apps they have, some identify with some of their personal identifiable information, and how often they're using those apps, we can use that data and combine with our demand-side platform, find that user at the right time, at the right place to interact with your brand. And so I just want to present a case study. We really want to put our money where our mouth was. And so this last year, we worked with a gaming company. They had multiple titles. They had both a strategy game and a casual title. And with a combination of using the Galaxy services, so some contextual advertising, plus our audience platform, they had specific goals that were no different from most folks in that area. And as we ran this campaign with a combination of audience and contextual targeting, we actually had a plus 30% return on ad spend against their cohort within strategy and plus 15% return on ad spend within casual. So these initial results make us very, very excited that we're on the right track to provide that promise to many of our advertisers. The second piece we talked about was it's not just about IAP anymore, it's about internet advertising and how do I derive from advertising, and that's a part of the monetization piece. So the thing that I wanted to announce today is that we will be developing a mobile ad SDK. Now this is something that we're going to be officially announcing sometime in 2020, but because of the trust we have with consumers, we want to be able to extend that inventory, that data, onto other apps. So if you're an app in this room and you're deriving revenue from internet advertising, we want to make sure that we have an additional relationship with you and have this opportunity to provide you with an ad SDK. So in summary, this is what we're doing in mobile advertising. We wanted to make sure that we did this right to begin with. And so we did a beta platform or a beta segment with our game developers, which just started recently, and we're about to launch this beyond our proof of concept. And so as a client objective, we are here to do performance marketing. We can drive app installs via campaign spend. We're open in markets in the US and in 12 other different countries. In terms of the App Store, we think it's a better experience to drive them into the Galaxy Store. But if you don't have that right now, we can also drive to the Play Store. The creative types we can use are IAB standard. And anything that you have that's rich and beyond that, we think is informative for audience extension and can be effective from that side. We're ready to go sometime in November, the next couple of weeks. And we usually do a small test budget to make sure everything's working correctly. And if the test budget works from there, we can scale your campaign to a point that's going to make sense for you. And as a beta customer, you get access to our Samsung audience. So that's important to us because we are only going to do this as managed service because that Samsung audience, our users trust us to hold that data, so we unfortunately can't let that out. So we are going to do that as a managed service only. For those of you who wanted to talk to us after this, I want to actually point out one person in the audience here, Paul Chu. He's our director of sales, and he can answer any of your questions, or I can answer your questions after this session.